أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. Continuing with our subject, unity in diversity in Islamic history. We said we will be giving examples of Shia-Sunni cooperation within history. That is the actual plan, and that's the actual topic which we, inshallah, plan to discuss as we go through. We say that, yes, the examples are few, they're not many, but there are enough examples to be able to give us inspiration that if this was possible in the past, it's also possible for us in the present, and it's possible in the future. And the reason for that is that Allah intends us Muslims to unite. Whenever we have sincere intentions, not that I specify on this, that sincere intentions, not the superficial uh, coming together which we do. For example, the iftar and all that events which happen, these are good things which are happening, but these are not events which will bring us together to collaborate together, work together for that common goal we have as Muslims. So if we have sincere intentions, then Allah for sure will help us through this path. Now, I mentioned that before we go into the topic, we need to go through some introductory discussions. And the reason we're going through these introductory discussions is then we will appreciate that actual discussion and appreciate the need for unity also. So one of those introductory discussions we mentioned was that we said we will start discussing is why unity? Why should Shias and Shias unite? Why should Sunnis and Sunnis unite? And why should Shias and Sunnis unite? Why is unity so important? So I gave two reasons. The first reason I gave was enough fighting. We have fought enough. Shias and Shias have fought enough. Sunnis and Sunnis have fought enough. Examples will come, inshallah. Shias and Sunnis have fought, which we all know about it. It's enough fighting. The West also, the Western leaders also see us as barbaric. We gave examples of that also. That was the first reason. The second reason we gave was that the Quran, and this is where I come and question myself, that are we as Muslims reading the same Quran which Allah has revealed? Or I don't know, are we reading another Quran? Allah is emphasizing so much on unity and telling us not to unite, to disunite, and we, unfortunately, we are doing the opposite. And a lot of times we are not even aware that we're doing something wrong. As I mentioned in the last previous discussion, that we even celebrate at times that we are disunited. So that was the second reason I discussed. The third reason today, inshallah, we discuss, and hopefully this should be the last reason we mention. There might be more reasons, but we have sufficed with these three. The third reason, which I call the role of neo-colonialism and post-colonialism strategies. Okay, this is what I call it, and inshallah, as we go through, we'll understand what it means. So in our previous discussions, if you remember that we discussed, we said there are three types of colonialism. One is classical colonialism, where the colonialist comes and occupies the country of the colonized physically. The second type of colonialism is, we said, it's neo-colonialism, where the colonialist doesn't come physically, but rather there's a local leader, the leadership is local, but the policies are controlled by the colonialist. So politics, economy, everything is controlled by the colonialist. And then there's a third type of colonialism. So I should make this clear also. You might not find this word post-colonialism in the meaning we intend in the Western literature. In the Western literature, what they mean by post-colonialism is you, now that colonialism is over, now when you go study colonialism and its effects and all that, that's called the period of post-colonialism. Yeah. So scholars like Edward Said, who wrote his famous book Orientalism, these are the people who are the post-colonialist scholars now. But what we intend is a definition coming from the Eastern world. And the reason is because Eastern world is being colonialized, so they're coming up with this definition. Now, this word post-colonialism should not be an issue because the Westerners use this word in another terminology. So, for example, they would use the terminologies like cognitive warfare, psychological warfare, or soft power. These are the terminologies you will see in the Western literature also being used. But we are using it to be able to encompass everything and use a very general term, post-colonialism. Meaning now the colonialist is not coming physically. Even if he has control over the politicians and the leadership of that country, now we're entering a new world where they're saying that there's a need for this cognitive warfare. Okay, so let me share the slides with you. Let me share the screen and then inshallah we go through some of the statements which will make sense inshallah as we go through. Okay, so this is sorry, this is technology. I'm just still. Now, before I get into explaining how do they work and the statements of these so-called Western politicians, if you notice, I have said that post-neo-colonialism and post-colonialism is where you will have the Western leaders and the politicians of our countries, which what statements do they make? How do they play a role in this, in disuniting the Ummah? Okay. So before I get into that, there's a beautiful statement from Imam Ali alayhi salam, which I believe uh, is uh, is giving us a picture of the state we are in today. So Imam Ali alayhi salam has two letters to the people of Egypt. One was to Malik Ashtar personally, that's letter number 53 in Nahj al-Balagha, and then letter number 62 in Nahj al-Balagha. Imam is talking to the people of Egypt directly. So he's telling them to go to the war. Now, we are not talking of a physical battle here. We're talking of a struggle we as Muslims have to have in terms of uniting ourselves. So Imam says, he tells the people of Egypt, go and fight, okay? Don't become lazy in your fight. Now, if you become lazy, and this is what exactly the message we want to give to ourselves as Muslims, we should not be lazy. Rather, we should not even think for a moment that there's no need for this unity, okay? Imam is saying, go fight and don't become lazy. If you become lazy and don't go and fight, you will be ashamed and you will face dishonor. Okay, you will be dhaleel. That is number one, Imam says. And your share will be the ugliest of all. Okay, these are the message I believe it presents what Islamic Ummah is going through today. the dhilla and the dishonor we are going through. And our share is the ugliest of all. It's basically what remains is what is given to us. Then Imam goes on to again uh, stress that a true warrior is always wakeful. He's awake. Okay, he's cognizant, he's awake. Now this is the statement I'm interested in. وَمَنْ نَامَ لَمْ يُنَمْ عَنْهُ. Imam says, if you're not awake, you think that if you are not awake, be aware that the enemy is awake. Okay? If you sleep, don't think that the enemy is also asleep. The enemy is awake. Okay, Imam is referring to the battle at that time with Muawiyah. But this is a statement which is really, really telling us our situation today. To give you an example, look at the moment where Syria fell. Okay, Bashar Assad went. Muslims went into celebration, the Syrians went into celebration. Notice, the moment they went into a bit of sleep, they started celebrating. Israel from there took up a land, came to 15 kilometers of Damascus. You think you are asleep, the enemy is also asleep? No, 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 the enemy is planning. So at times we as Muslims think that, oh, what's the need for unity? Everything is going on well. No, the plan has to keep on going on because the enemy is planning from behind. Okay? And this is exactly what we will show today, that if the enemy is planning on one side, and then the local leaders and the Muslim leaders also are giving in to these plans, and then see what's happening. Okay? So, now, as I mentioned, that post-colonialism or cognitive warfare, psychological warfare, whatever you want to call it, this is a website of NATO. It's an official website of NATO. Uh, in there, they write their strategies and their policies. Look at what they write, okay? And this is where I want us as Muslims to be awake and say that, are we not being made to sleep purposely for them to do what they want to do? Notice what they say. In cognitive warfare, the human mind becomes the battlefield. Now we are explaining what post-colonialism is or what cognitive warfare is. The whole battlefield now, so even if they don't fail, we said in neo-colonialism, the now battle, the battle for in this period we're living in, is the battle of the mind and information and the battle of mind and hearts. So before I get into this, for those of you following up on the news, or before the news also, if you have read the book of Alvin Toffler, Alvin Toffler has a book called The Third Wave, where he divides the human history into three ages. Now, inshallah, we plan to, if Allah gives us the tawfiq, to be able to discuss the theories of the end of the times, especially those theories coming out from the Western world about the end of times. And we plan to give a kind of a comparison with the Islamic view of end of times and the religious view of end of times. And then we kind of have a small comparison. Inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq, we might discuss this in the future. So Alvin Toffler is one of those futurists who have discussed about the future, and he discusses this in his third wave. So when it comes to the third age, he calls it the information age. He says this is where everything will be focused on information. Okay, so when we come to that book, inshallah, we'll discuss about that. So what now has gone on, if what is going on now, if you're observing the Trump inauguration, he has all the tech billionaires in front sitting in the VIP to that level that some analysts were saying that the politicians were totally sidelined. It was looking like this inauguration is Trump with the tech billionaires. Okay? If you're noticing, again, a ban on TikTok, and then now Trump says there's a discussion going on that Microsoft is going to buy TikTok. Control over information. Okay? Just recently, again, with the coming of DeepSeek, the Chinese AI, notice how stock market plunged. $460 billion. They say that total losses in stock market have gone to $1 trillion. Now, what those figures are for us, at times they're very far-fetched figures, but this is what they're dealing with. Okay, this is how information is important. And this is where uh, the whole discussion of battle of control of hearts and minds come in. You will see books being written about the battle of control of hearts and minds. So cognitive warfare or psychological warfare, as it was known before, or soft power, or the way we call it, post-colonialism, it's a time where everybody now is fighting to be able to control the hearts and the minds. Okay? And that is why you notice even the Chinese introduced the AI on Trump's inauguration day. It didn't work out the way they wanted, but it worked out a few days later. Okay? So the Chinese have realized, America has realized it's in. Trump is investing. If you notice that he called the three tech big companies in AI with one bank, they're saying they're investing $500 billion now. Okay, so this is the war which we are now going towards, the battle we are going through. So this is what the article about in the NATO website says. In cognitive warfare, the human mind becomes the battlefield. Okay, now this is important. The aim is to change not only what people thinks. Look at these statements, but how they think and how they act. So it's not only what people think is important. No, how you will think is also important. And then the behavior you show after thinking is also important for them. Okay? This is how we are going through in this period. They go forward. They say it shapes and influences individual and group beliefs and behaviors. This is where my stress upon is. I'm stressing upon. It influences not only individuals, but it also influences group beliefs. And this is where we're saying that Shias are influenced, Sunnis are influenced, and I'll discuss this. And Shias and Sunnis as a collective group are also influenced. Now, what's the potential of this cognitive warfare? It says it has a potential to fracture and fragment an entire society so that it no longer has the collective will to resist and adverse its intentions. This is exactly the result, the summary of today's discussions, if I want to say that. Okay? The whole cognitive warfare is going to do this. It can fracture a society, it can fragment a society, and this is where we're talking about the Islamic Ummah. This cognitive warfare initiated by the Western world can fracture the society, and it's fracturing the Islamic Ummah. And we no longer have the collective will to fight back now. And this is what you're seeing, yeah? Now, it goes on further. It seeks to sow doubt, to introduce conflicting narratives. Okay, now conflicting narratives is okay as long as we can work together. We can have difference of opinion, no problem. But conflicting narratives, now what happens is it polarizes opinions, and not only that, to radicalize groups. This is what the fear is. This has happened in the past where groups get radicalized and fight each other. We don't only have difference of opinion, but rather these difference of opinions sound very contradictory. They're made to sound like that. And then we fight each other now. And then the document goes on. It says to motivate them to acts that can disrupt or fragment an otherwise cohesive society. This is the message we're trying to give. That if we are not awake, this is what they're planning to do. Okay, let's go further. Now, you see the article goes on further. It says the advantage is in cognitive warfare goes to him who moves first. And that is why they have realized that the battle is the battle of information now. And they have gone way further, investing billions and trillions into this. We are not realizing that a person like Elon Musk can come and buy Twitter for what, 40 plus billion, if I'm not mistaken. Why should they invest so much information, so much money into this? Okay. He has a Starlight satellite, which so I found it news to me that Musk is even discussing with Iran that if the Starlight satellite can come into Iran, okay, this is where the control of information is coming in. They want to take over TikTok, okay, so that they have the control over the information, not only what you read, but how you think, what you think, and how you will behave. Everything will come from them. Okay, this is what. So they go on further that advantage in cognitive warfare goes to him who moves first. They've moved. They've moved. Chooses the time. Now is the time. Place and means of offensive. Okay, as I go through, we will see what they mean. Now, before I now go into the examples quoting the Western's politicians and the Muslim politicians, there's an important, an interesting analysis one of the YouTuber made. His name is Drew Vrati. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an Indian YouTuber living in Germany. He's a very influential YouTuber, almost having 25, 27 million subscribers. Now, he is discussing this under the context of India, and you will notice that India also fits in very nicely in this narrative which he's trying to propose. Now, I'm trying to use his analysis and propose it for the situation we are going through and relate it to the Islamic unity issue. So let's go first through. He says that the four stages of propaganda, brainwashing, soft power, cognitive warfare, whatever you want to call it, but there are four stages they go through. Okay? So the first stage, he says now, these people so the people who are planning the propaganda, and there's an audience to which propaganda is to be related to. Okay, now, inshallah, as we're going now, you think that propaganda is being done, and we Muslims are the audience. Okay, so now, the first thing we as an audience are being told that you are racially and religiously the best people. So that pride, racial pride, and religious pride is given to us. Okay, so let me give an example in politics terms, then it'll be clear for what we're discussing in Islamic terms. So, what we're being told is that we should be proud of our race or religion or sect or whatever we are belonging to. So, look at what is happening. Trump, okay, give an example of Trump, give an example of Israel, what is going on today. So, if you look at Trump and the allies of Trump, all they are trying to propagate, and this propaganda is being given that America first. That means America is the best country in terms of liberal democracy, in terms of secularism, in terms of everything, technological advancement, everything you talk about, we are the first one. Okay, we are the ones. Or come to the Israelis, the Zionists. Okay, I would not like to say all the Jews, but the Zionists. They're promoting this understanding that the Jews are the best people, Everybody else is. You hear the talks about Semite and anti-Semite and Gentiles and all that. Okay, everybody else is useless. Rather, we are the God's chosen people on earth. And Israel is the land which God has chosen for us. Okay, now this is the pride narrative which is being given. So when you come to Islamic unity also, every group now, so if Shias are being talked to, they will be told that Shias, you are the best of all, everybody else is doomed to failure. If Sunnis are being talked to, the same narrative is being shared with. And you notice everybody is saying that we are firqatun najiyah. This is what I discussed in the previous lecture. We are the firqatun najiyah. We are the saved sect. Everybody else is doomed. We are proud of our own heritage. This is step number one. This is how it goes on in soft power and in cognitive warfare. The second step now, the audience will be told, but act as victims. Okay, so you have to play the card of victimization. Meaning what? So if you come again to Trump, it's strange that Trump supporters and Trump himself is playing a victim card also. So notice how he's playing the card that I have been sidelined by the system. This mafia system wants to sideline me. I'm fighting against the whole system and all whatnot. I'm the victim. Again, the cases which were against him, he put it as the same, victim of everything. Okay, and his supporters also buy into this narrative and they share this narrative. Come to the Zionists again. They're sharing the same understanding. Okay, we are, yes, we are the chosen people of God, but we have been victimized and we have been tortured throughout history. Now, nobody denies that Jews have undergone troubles, but they themselves, we're talking about the present now. They're playing the victim card for the present, which is not the correct narrative they're sharing. They're not the victim today. They're the power. They're actually controlling the superpower, actually. Okay, but they're playing as the victim card. They're playing this victim card today with themselves. So you come to, again, Islamic unity. Each sect, even within Shias, within Sunnis, each group will play this card of victimization. That, oh, we are victims. We have undergone a lot of troubles. So if you look at Shias, they'll say that we have undergone a lot of troubles in history. Sunnis will share the same narrative. Okay, this is how it goes on. Now, I'm not saying we don't discuss history, but what we're saying is look at the present and discuss the present. Don't play the victim card and relate it to the present and say, oh, we want to do this because we were victims. No, that is what I'm trying to mean. Okay, so victims. Then step number 3 now, these politicians and these propagandists will now spread fear and danger. So what will they do? So again, coming to Trump, Trump and his followers will tell you that America is the democracy and the secularization and the liberal democracy of America is being taken away. If you don't vote for me, if you don't choose me, America is in danger. Okay, not only in danger, it also identifies that it says that this particular group is planning to kill this whole America and create the whole dream, destroy the whole dream of America. Come to Israel, it makes more sense. Notice everybody in the Zionist view is Hamas now. Who opposes them becomes Hamas. So this fear is now being created, this danger is being created. ICC, Hamas. ICJ, Hamas. UN, Hamas. Everybody who speaks anything, okay, he just speaks against these Zionists and their propaganda is Hamas. this fear is being inculcated in within Israel. And that is why you will notice that uh, the polls coming out of Israel, the people, this is where I question that there was a time Benjamin Netanyahu was not liked. There were so many protests against him. He was the unliked leader, totally disliked leader in Israel. But suddenly after war, his ratings have gone high again. And this is where I ask this Israeli uh, population, what's happening? The same person yesterday was disliked, had corruptions against him. Now suddenly his ratings have gone higher. Why? Because he's gone to war. He spread his message through this fear and this danger that everybody is Hamas. They're after you. They want to destroy your country. Okay? This narrative is being inculcated in them. So, coming to Islamic unity also, the same issue. Shias are being told Sunnis are a danger to you. Sunnis are being told Shias are a danger to you. And the strange part is when, if you're following up during this massacre of uh, in Palestine, uh, in this 15, 16 months, strangely, some of the countries created so-called muftis and scholars who now started using this. Okay, they started spreading this danger that because you notice Muslims were being told unite, unite, leave your differences behind, and some muftis and some scholars were created to now spread the narrative that oh, Shias are your enemy, Sunnis are your enemy. Within also we had issues also. Okay, this is what we are talking about. And then the final part comes in now a cult personalities of a savior is being introduced. So now Trump is being introduced. So you will see his followers when you look at interviews, his followers say he's a divine help God is sending. The same is being used for Modi also, yeah? If you listen to this Dhruv Rathi and he quotes Modi and his followers, they keep on talking about the divine help in terms of Modi, which is coming to help the Indian politics. From whom? From the Muslims. Okay? All these years they have lived together, nothing happened. Now this narrative is being shared. So you come to the sects also, come to Israel also, the same. They will tell you that Jews are not the question now. We are now discussing Zionism now. Zionism is your savior now. Okay, and that is why even the Jews who protest in the Western world, they are being deemed as supporters of Hamas, or they're being influenced by Hamas. The universities are being influenced by Hamas. It's Zionism which has to come and help you and take you out of this problem. Okay, so come to sects also, come to Shia Sunnis again. You will see. I don't want to get into examples, but people are being introduced as saviors. These are the saviors who are going to save now this cult, this sect, and this group. And sometimes we even use religious terms. We say mujaddid, you know, he's a mujaddid, he's a revivalist. And this is what is being discussed out there. So these are the four steps the propagandists or the colonialists go through to spread their propaganda, the soft power which they are using. Now, they use different means. They use social media, they use media as a big weapon, and then education and universities, yeah. Now, very quickly, notice the characteristics of soft power or cognitive warfare is different from the classical colonialism or even neo-colonialism, where you feel that somebody is imposing on you something. But the quality of post-colonialism and cognitive warfare is that it's non-coercive. Nobody comes and forces you. They just share information with you, they play with your mind, they play with the heart, and you yourself are slowly, slowly accepting it. Nobody comes and forces. The second quality characteristic is that it's long-term impact. Okay, the impact of this propaganda is long term. And the reason is because it's having an impact on my mind and not on my physical self. Number three, voluntary adoption, which we talked about. And four, attraction and influence. It attracts. So if I'm told my sect is the best sect, everybody else is doomed, it attracts me, yeah, as a person who belongs to this sect. If I'm a follower, God forbid, of Trump, then if he tells me I am the one who's going to come and save you, it attracts, yeah. And the ones who are against Trump are all against us. So it attracts, it influences a person. Okay, hope you can relate it to what we are talking about and the need then to wake up. Okay, now coming back now to our examples, this is where I come and say that the politicians and this whole plan of theirs of post-colonialism and cognitive warfare, see how what they plan. So Audit Yinon, again, for those of you who are following this 15-16 month massacre in Palestine, you must have heard his name. Audit Yinon was a journalist in the 1980s. He wrote this small article, which is turned into a booklet. It's translated into English now. It's called The Zionist Plan for the Middle East. It's a 32-page booklet. It's a very small booklet. Look at what this man spoke in 1980s. And this is exactly the plan the Zionists are implementing today, and they will implement it in the Islamic Ummah also. Look at what they're talking about. So in the initial pages, the publisher comment, they're giving a summary of this article, and then they write they translate the actual article. So on page 4, the publisher writes, he says that the whole premise of the article is that how should Israel survive? Yeah. So they say that it's going to survive on two premises. Okay. Number one, Israel will survive if it becomes an imperial regional power. And this is what we're seeing now, that they're spreading and annexing land to try and grab as much as land to become the imperial power and regional power. Again, that's not our discussion. The second part is our discussion. Look at what the publishers say. They say that for Israel to survive, it must affect the division of the whole area, that's the Middle East, into small states by the dissolution of all existing Arab states. Okay, so you're going to divide all the Arab states into small segments. Now, on what basis do they divide? Look at what's happening. Small here will depend on the ethnic or sectarian composition of its state. And this is what I mean by when we talk about Islamic unity, this is what we mean. That they're going to divide the Arab Middle East based on sectarianism, on ethnicity. And the best example, Syria again. Okay, I keep on giving the example of Syria because it's a very recent example. Look at how many sects and religions do we have inside. Look at how many different ethnicity do we have inside. And then each is after the other. And that's exactly what he's saying. Consequently, the Zionist hope is that sectarian-based states become Israel's satellites. So either you are with Israel or we will do this to you then. Okay, they've divided us. And on top of that, now you're being controlled by us. Now, the author, Oded Yinon himself, goes on to say that The Muslim Arab world is built like a temporary house of cards put together by foreigners. We all know about the Sykes and Picot Agreement, which happened in 1915. After the fall of Ottoman Empire, yeah, in this brief period, these foreigners came, yeah, France and Britain came in and divided every piece of land according to what they want, okay? The way they wanted, they divided this land of the Ottomans and they took it for themselves and they colonized themselves. The basis was sectarianism and ethnicity. Very strange. Okay? So Yinon goes on to say that it was arbitrarily divided into 19 states. And go do your study. Out of the 19 states, only Egypt is somehow majority Arab. Others are all mixed. Okay, mixed in religions, mixed in sects, mixed in ethnicity. Why? All made of combinations of minorities and ethnic groups which are hostile to one another. This is the important point I want to make. That's exactly they want us to do. It's the cognitive warfare, one of the means of cognitive warfare, that they fight and then we have power over them. They become Israeli satellite states, if they, the way they call it, yeah? So that every Arab Muslim state nowadays faces ethnic social destruction from within. This was predicted in 1980s. We are seeing this today very much happening. And this is what the Zionist plan is for the Middle East. Yeah? This is one example. The second example, now this is an example of neo-colonialism. In neo-colonialism, we say that the colonialists control the leaders and the local leaders of that country. So this is a recent book written by Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward is a very famous American journalist who has won a lot of awards also. He writes books which I call the insider books. Insider books meaning that he gives you information which is inside, what's happening inside. He tells you exactly what's happening. So he's a book on Bush and what happened in the State House. He's a book apparently on Trump, if I'm not mistaken, again, and what happened in the State House. This is a recent book, War, where he now discusses the trips Blinken made to different countries. So there's a portion which discusses Russia and Ukraine. There's a portion which discusses the Middle East. That is where I'm interested in. So Blinken, with his entourage, goes to the Middle East. If you notice in the 15-16-month period of the massacre, if I'm not mistaken, Blinken traveled to Middle East at least 13 times, if not more. He went through, yeah, Egypt, UAE, Jordan, Saudi, and he was traveling. So everything is written in this book. So Woodward says that he went to Egypt with his entourage. They meet the foreign minister of Egypt and the intelligence chief of Egypt, Abbas Kamal. Now, look at what he writes. He says Kamal offered the Americans assessments of how deep and extensive the Hamas tunnels were beneath Gaza. He goes on. Hamas is entrenched in Gaza, he explained. Abbas Kamal is explaining to the Americans. It will be very difficult to eliminate them. Israel shouldn't just go in at all at once, sit back. This is the statement now. Wait for them to pop up and chop their heads off. Language, look at what the language is. Now, a person might say we differ with Hamas, we don't agree with Hamas. No worries. I'm not discussing Hamas at the moment. What I'm saying is these people, the Egyptians, know that Americans are going to share intelligence with the Zionists. And what the Zionists are doing also, they know. They're going to destroy totally a people. Okay, this whole Gaza and Palestine is being destroyed. They know about it. And still they're sharing intelligence with these people. This is what I'm talking about, the role of neo-colonialist strategies. Yeah, the politicians are with them. Now, why? And this is where Islamic unity comes in. For those of you following up in the Middle East politics, the politicians, again, this is where I want us to be aware that sometimes we fall under these politicians. And worse is where scholars fall in under the politics of these politicians, wallahi. This is the scariest part of everything. So what is happening now is there's a plan, there's already rather not a plan, there's a division going on in the level of politics that the Middle East is being divided into two major groups in terms of politics. There are those who are the Ikhwani supporters, those who are the Muslim Brotherhood, and they share that mentality. Okay, the countries which I will not name them. And there are countries, again, in the Middle East who reject this Ikhwani narrative, the Muslim Brotherhood narrative, and they are now promoting the so-called Sufi narrative of Islam, of sitting down quiet and everything. No, everything. We just need to sit quiet, okay? This is what is being promoted within now, okay? So now, when you see Egypt helping, rather, let me go into the next slide and then I explain this again. So you see United Arab Emirates also. Blinken goes there also. He says next he flew to the United Arab Emirates. He meets their officials. They also say we can give Israel the space to destroy Hamas. Okay, knowing very clearly that what these people are going to do. But Israel has to give a space that we should be able to assist in humanitarian. We should send in humanitarian aid inside. And that's exactly what they tried. But again, Israel doesn't give in to any of these, promises the way it normally does. So Bob Woodward concludes by saying the Arab leaders were prepared to give Israel space to do what they need with Hamas, but Israel just needed to create a space for humanitarian assistance in Gaza. That's all. Okay? This is the role of politicians in the Middle East. Now, as I was mentioning that there's a twofold division happening in the Middle East. The Ikhwani narrative and those who follow this system, and those who are now promoting the Sufi understanding of Islam in the Middle East. Okay, so all these countries, you will understand that they don't support the Ikhwani narrative, the Muslim Brotherhood narrative. Rather, they support the Sufi understanding, and we'll give examples as we go through subsequently also, that they promote this kind of understanding. Yeah. So anywhere they feel the danger of an Ikhwani rising, straight away they go fund there. Even if it's with the help of the Israelis and the Zionists and the Americans, they will do it. That's the strange part of it. And this is where I come and say, Muslims, we need to be aware that the politicians are using us. They're using us. Okay? So look at the example. Sudan, again, money coming in from Muslim states. The fight's going on. Libya, same thing. Uh, Libyan government comes in, Islamic government comes in, straight away, you're destroyed, and then the chaos which happened in Libya. Tunisia, Ghanouch came in, he was democratically elected, the funding went in to divide the Tunisians, and again, Tunisia has now left the Islamic Party, and again, it's not moving forward the way it's supposed to move forward. The Arab Spring was supposed to take them forward, but it didn't do that. Okay? The same thing in Syria. Now, the strange part is they do it in Palestine also. So Hamas shares this Ikhwani narrative. Okay? So anybody who shares this Ikhwani narrative, we will go against them. Okay? Be it at the cost of destruction of the whole country. No worries. We're going to do that. Why? So these people don't come in front. Okay, and you see that they become apolitical totally. You go to Hajj, you are not allowed to speak anything about Palestine. You are not allowed anything in on all of these Middle Eastern countries. Okay, so and the whole point I'm trying to make is for us to be aware that how politicians are being used. Now, further than that, Francis Fukuyama, who is a famous political scientist, again, inshallah, if we discuss these theories of end of times, we will discuss him. He has a book called The End of History and the Last Man, which is a famous book with the theory he's given on, which inshallah we will discuss as we go through if we discuss it. Okay? He predicts, this was an article in Financial Times. He predicts, he says, with the coming of Trump, it's a very recent article, with the coming of Trump, Trump is a businessman politician, yeah? So he's thinking of politics as a businessman. So he wants to avoid wars as much as possible. So you notice he has issues with China, but according to Fukuyama, he says he's tough on China, but he might be willing to make a deal with him over Taiwan, with the Chinese president over Taiwan. He's willing to make that deal with the Asian leaders. Trump seems averse to use of military power because it doesn't make sense business-wise. Yeah, so he doesn't. He wants to use minimum military power as much as possible. But one exception is the Middle East. This is Fukuyama, who is very a known political scientist. He's telling you that one exception where Trump will give an exception to fight militarily also is Middle East. This is where the Muslims are. And this is where I come and say that we need to be cognizant. If we are not, we will fall into wars and conflicts which are not even ours also. Okay? So where is likely to be wholeheartedly supportive of Netanyahu's wars against Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Okay? And this is where Shia Sunnis will be brought in. Now, I finish with this statistics. These are scary statistics. When I was reading them, I was like, what's happening? These are statistics coming from Pew Research, which is again a known and recognized uh, institution for doing these statistics. Now, there's always ups and downs in these statistics. So I'm not saying they're going to be as accurate, but they give you a picture of how scary it is out there and how much we need to be aware and wake up from this sleep of ours. So they say that they did a survey of in different countries to ask them that what is the greatest danger you see to the world today. So when the Europeans were asked, this was in 2014, by the way. Now, I'm hoping things have changed, and I'm sure in Europe things have changed, but I'm hoping that in Islamic world things have changed to become better. So in Europe in 2014, they were asked, what's the greatest danger? And they all mentioned inequality. Now, if today they were being asked, they would answer, the answer would not be the same after choosing all these far right governments and anti immigration policies which are coming in. I don't think so. This would be the answer, but this was the answer 2014. Notice France and UK, where they are Muslims and Muslims are a bit active, France says inequality and religious hatred. And in UK, when they were interviewed, they said religious and ethnic hatred is the biggest danger in UK. Can you see this? Now, what made me really cry over this report was this, that look at the Middle East. Majority in the Middle East say that the greatest danger in the Middle East is religious and ethnic hatred. I don't know if you can read it. You have Lebanon, Palestine, Tunisia, Egypt, Israel, okay? And then you go on down again, Bangladesh, in Indonesia. These are all Muslim countries. Same answer, same answer. What is happening? Okay. Now, what worried me even more is this, that in 2007, they did one survey, and then in 2014, they did one survey. The change was not in reducing, it didn't reduce, rather, these fears increased. The sectarianism and this religious hatred increased. So look at the Middle East. Lebanon, from 39% to 58%, an increase of 19%. And that is what makes me fear that from 2014 till 2024, will it have gone down? Will it have even increased more? Egypt, 18%. The only place where it reduced was in Palestine from 44% to 40%. That's all. Okay. So the major danger, the major problem in the Middle East and the Muslim countries is ethnic and sectarian differences. Okay. Now, go further. In most of the Sunni countries, when they were surveyed, 40% of Sunnis say that we do not accept Shias as Muslims. These are alarming statistics. This is where propaganda works in. Now, 13 out of 23 countries where the Sunnis were asked, uh, again, as it is, 60% said Shias are Muslims, but Egypt and Morocco, majority say that no, Shias are not Muslims. Can you see these alarming statistics? Okay. Now look at this. Sunnis being asked if Shias are Muslims. Now, where they've lived together after 2000, they've really tried spoiling Iraq and Lebanon. Although these two countries, people used to live together, marry together, work together. And that is why, notice, in 2014, in Iraq and Lebanon, 14% and 21% said that Shias are uh, Shias are not Muslims. Yeah, Sunnis say that Shias are not Muslims. Now, I don't know. Hopefully this statistics have gone down then up. But look at Tunisia, 41%, Jordan, 43%, Egypt, 53% of Sunnis believe Shias are not Muslims. This is what's scary. Morocco, okay, 50%. Now, here it includes other countries also, like Albania. They say that 20% of Shias are not Muslims. Russia, 13%. Bosnia, 23%. Kosovo, 21%. These are not very good figures, to hear out. Okay, no, sorry. So this is about Shias as Muslims. I'm sorry. So are Shias Muslims? Yes. Sunnis are being asked, and they reply that these are the figures. Okay, so it's going on from 7% all the way to 51%. Allah, this is even 7% saying that the fellow Muslim is not a brother, is not a Muslim. It's scary. It's scary, okay? Now we're coming to Shia countries where they're being asked if Sunnis are Muslims. Now, in two countries where they've lived together, look at the stats. They're very encouraging stats. I hope they've remained. Iraq, 99% of Shia says Sunnis are Muslims. 97% in Lebanon says they are Muslims. When you go further, where now this propaganda war works, Azerbaijan, 18% say Sunnis are not Muslims. 18%. As I said, 9% is also scary. 18% say that Sunnis are not Muslims. Okay, and these are the numbers now. Are Sunni Muslims? Look at the numbers now. Look at the no. The highest number which goes on is Indonesia, 30%. 30% say Sunnis are not Muslims. What's happening? Okay, what's happening? Okay, so inshallah, I'll discuss it as we go further now. The next discussion is we discuss some obstacles and some solutions, inshallah. So, in conclusion, what I was discussing today was that the role of politicians in our countries, in our Muslim dominated countries, and the role of the Western leaders in terms of the cognitive warfare and the soft power and the post-colonialism period which we're living in, and how they want us to get divided. Once we get divided, they rule over us and they can have control over us. And this is where I come and say that Muslims, we have to be awake that we don't get used by these powers, not by local politicians, nor by these Western powers who want to take us in their warfare. May Allah give us tawfiq to be able to unite together, inshallah, and to be able to come together and slowly, slowly. What I keep on proposing is this: that uh, locally, if we can try unite at a small level, slowly, 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 if we can show models of unity, the unity is possible, inshallah, we can have the higher and a global unity, inshallah. May Allah help us, inshallah, in this cause. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.